What up, world? It's Professor Reverb back in the studio with the Ableton Push 3 Standalone. Now, I've been an Ableton Push user for quite a while. I've had Push 1, I've had Push 2, but I've yet to explore the Push 3 up until now. And what can I say? It's pretty dang cool. It takes pretty much all of the features that you could do in an Ableton clip view and do it all on this standalone unit. So you could use all your devices. You can sample onto here because it's got a built-in audio interface. And it also goes a step further by adding Wi-Fi so you could connect with Ableton Link and connect it with your software. And it has a battery so you could just take the power off, go sit on the couch, and build a live session from scratch. Now, obviously, with the Push 3 Standalone, the dream is now true. We could pack up our whole Ableton live session, get away from the laptop, go to the venue with just this controller, and play a whole live set. That in itself is pretty cool, but for me, one of the biggest takeaways with this Push 3 is these 64 expressive MPE pads. These pads just feel great. And then you add on everything else that it can do, like being a complete standalone version of Ableton. So let's just jump right into that and a bunch of other cool things about this Push 3. So MPE, or MIDI polyphonic expression, it's been a hot topic for a while. We've had lots of controllers come out that can do MPE within the last year or so, but this is the newest one, and to me, this is one of the coolest things about this Push 3. Even if you're a great keyboard player, you gotta admit, the expressiveness that you can get out of these pads is just something that you can't do on a normal MIDI controller, whether it be a normal keyboard controller or a normal pad controller. Now, I mentioned that this is an MPE controller, and that's great, but there's still not that many MPE compatible synth sounds. But thankfully, Ableton has just introduced Drift to Ableton 11, and Drift is Ableton's MPE synth. It's a dual oscillator synth, and it's built for MPE movements. So like all of the pushes before this Push 3, in addition to the MPE, you still have all the built-in scales that keeps you all in tune. You can go back from having it be in a regular chromatic layout or the in-key layout, which is what I prefer. Now, it is already pretty cool within itself that this is the standalone version, and it comes with a lot of Ableton's devices that you get access to with the Ableton software, including the synth voices like I just showed you. But I got a lot of gear, we got a lot of gear here. Another cool thing about this standalone is I could sequence using MIDI. I could use the TRS MIDI out connection, or I could take advantage of this USB and connect through USB MIDI with any of my USB MIDI compatible devices. Again, this is still an Ableton Push, so of course the sequencer is built into this, so I could use the internal sequencer to sort of lay down some notes. But I don't really prefer the sequencer. I actually prefer to just play out some notes. So let's just do it that way. And there's a MIDI clip that now I can go in using this nice big fat knob that they added, and I can go and I can adjust the notes that I want. I could change the pitch, I could change the length, the velocity, and I could even change the probability of the notes. All right, so like I mentioned, it's great that Push 3 Standalone has the devices capable to get a groove going all on its own without using anything external. But that's what's cool about this. You can use external devices like this Voca right here, and you can sequence it via MIDI. And above all else, this has an audio interface. So I could run the audio out of here right into the Push 3. I can record the audio into here. And eventually, when I got this all laid out, I can go and drag this whole session right back into Ableton to finish the track. But let's get the track going first. So how do we start playing this MIDI with these pads and running audio? Well, let's add a new track. Let's add a MIDI track, and let's add an actual external instrument device onto that track. Now it's going to ask you, where do we want to MIDI to with this external instrument? So let's go Push 3 MIDI out. Let's go channel 1, and it's going to ask you where you want the audio from. Let's go to 1 and 2. So now, this is my Voca. Cool, and I can adjust latency. I can also adjust the gain. Of course, I could just easily record using MIDI sequencing on the Push 3 with sounds from the Voca FM. That's cool. So look at how easy that was to just record a 4-bar loop. Ableton is very smart with truncating the loops based off of what it thinks that you were trying to record. So if you record for 4 bars, it'll already make the loop for 4 bars for you. If we're recording for 8, it'll make it for 8 and so on. What's also cool about the Push 3 is I don't have to use these scene launch buttons down here. I could use this big fat knob that I keep talking about to actually launch scenes, which is really, really efficient. Now, it's important to keep in mind that what we just recorded still is the MIDI sequence for this synth. If I wanted to capture this audio, just like in Ableton, I need to open up an audio track and route this MIDI sequence to audio to capture the audio as well. All right, so I got a MIDI sequence here, but it's important to note that this is still MIDI. I want to record this audio and actually have the audio from this patch in here in full. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's just hit that plus, add in an audio track. Let's make it a default track. I could put effects on that external instrument track, but I want to just get a nice clean dry mix out of the Voca FM before I start adding effects. So I'm just going to make it post mixer. So now I made it a 4-bar loop into an 8-bar loop just because I don't want it to capture all of the natural decay and stuff from this Voca FM. But there's the audio right there. So I can go back over here and actually mute this MIDI track. And now all we have is just the audio. So now if I want to add effects to this audio track, I can do that. And it's cool that we got pretty much all of the devices and effects and anything you have available on your Ableton software, you would have available, or you could make available for the Push 3. So I just basically made a little effects rack within this audio track, but of course with Ableton, I have the 2 reverb and delay return tracks that I could send any audio to. So let's send some reverb to this as well. And I can come over to the reverb and make my adjustments. All right, so we got sounds from the Voca FM using MIDI sequencing and using the audio recorder with the interface, but I want to keep using the interface because this track desperately needs some bass, and I could use one of the bass synth voices, but why don't I just actually use a real bassist like my buddy John behind the camera. Let's plug in his electric bass using the same interface input, and let's just record some bass. So now that we got some electric bass in here, it's good to show that the Push 3 is not just a controller. It's not just meant for live electronic sets, but you could actually use this to record audio like a standalone hard disk recorder and actually go and jam with some of your friends. Or if you're a multi-instrumentalist, you use guitar or bass, you want to lay down some drums and some other stuff, you could just plug your guitar or bass right into here and just keep adding to the track before you go and dump it into Ableton. That's all pretty cool to be able to do in one standalone device. So let's just talk about the user interface of this Push 3 for a second. You know, Ableton is very complex software. You definitely need keyboard and mouse to take advantage of the software. So I was really curious when they announced this standalone how they would implement a lot of what you would normally use the keyboard and mouse for into a standalone unit. And the answer is this big fat clickable knob over here, which allows you to navigate the screen and also navigate Ableton's browser windows. It clicks, it moves around, and it does all the things you need it to do. But it's not just this knob, it's also these knobs up here and the fact that they added capacitive touch to these knobs, so you could just touch the top of it and it shows you what parameter you're controlling. Same with this tempo knob over here. You could just touch the tempo knob and it shows you what tempo that you're at. But then if you click it, now you're in swing amount, so you can add some swing. And then this knob over here is your volume output. So this is your main output. If you click it again, this is your headphone output. If you click it again, this is the master volume output. And if you click it again, this is your cue volume output if you are using this for a live set and you need to cue up some tracks on your headphones. So all this is pretty clever, combined with new buttons over here that allow you to go to saving a set or launching a new set, settings. It's got all the tutorials on here, and you could go into user mode, which of course is open for pretty much anything you would want to do. Just like with the previous pushes, you could pretty much design your own sort of MIDI controller out of this thing. Push 3 is no different. I don't even want to get into that because that is probably a rabbit hole all in itself, but it's cool that it's there. And then you also have your clip stop buttons up here. You have mute and solo up here. And you have this lock button where you can just lock parameters. Then you got these 4 buttons up here, which this goes to the actual clip layout. This is an individual clip depending on what track you're on. This here is the volume, pan, sends, depending on whatever track you're on. And then this is the actual track parameters. So like, this is my synth track, and this is my audio track with all my effects. So yeah, I mean, all of that is laid out pretty cool, and I'm just kind of scratching the surface on all the different buttons and shortcuts they have here, but this only really took maybe a couple hours to really understand the layout and understand what most of these buttons do and how it actually does make for a standalone Ableton workflow. So this is the Push 3 standalone, right? But it does still work as a controller with Ableton. You link this up via USB to Ableton Live, and you can use this in controller mode and take advantage of Ableton Live software with still using this as a controller. But this has Wi-Fi on it, and you use the Wi-Fi to actually drag and drop sessions, samples, packs, anything that you want to have in the standalone version from your Ableton Live software. And to do that, you have to first connect these both to the same Wi-Fi network. So in settings over here, you just go over to Wi-Fi, make sure you connect it to the network that your Ableton Live software computer or laptop is set up to. And then within Ableton itself, so once it's connected and it sees the Push 3 on its Wi-Fi network, then the Push 3's browser will open up, and you could basically drag and drop projects and samples onto the Push 3 standalone on its own hard drive via Wi-Fi. And as you might expect, this is exactly how you take standalone sessions that you made on the Push 3 standalone and drag them into Ableton software. You use the Wi-Fi. So it's really cool and really convenient to do. And another cool thing about the Push 3 having Wi-Fi, this fully connects with Ableton Link. So if you're using things like Ableton Note on your mobile device, you could have that link to Push 3, and Push 3 can be the master tempo for Ableton Link or any other devices that are Ableton Link compatible. All right, so that's a basic overview of the functionality of this Push 3 standalone. Another cool thing about this Push 3 standalone, and what makes it worth it, in my opinion, is its user upgradability and the fact that it's kind of feature-proof. You have a battery and processor in here and a hard drive, and we have the ability to upgrade that in years to come. And Ableton has mentioned that Push 3 will get continual upgrades, including the upgrades that are already been announced in their new Live 12 that's coming out next year. So with that being said, I feel like the Push 3 standalone is highly worth it. Like I said earlier, it's a great MPE controller. That in itself makes this comparable to lots of other MPE controllers on the market. You take its MPE controlling nature and add it with all of the other components like the audio interface, like the ability to MIDI sequence and having Wi-Fi and being able to just start sessions here and then finish them on the software later. I think it's pretty cool, and I definitely think it's worth the money. So yeah, so I'm gonna get back to working with this, and I'm gonna take this back home and dive a little bit deeper, maybe throw in some of my own packs, get some of my own devices loaded in the way that I want them to be, and really just set this up the way that I have my software set up. And it's really cool that I could do this all in a standalone fashion. So that's all I got for y'all today. I'm Fetch Grandiose, signing off of Reverb. As always, stay safe and keep creating. Peace.